Admin Namaste, everyone. Christian Long, life enhancement consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on Transformation Q&A Thursday. This is where you come and you bring your questions about spirituality, energy healing, and practical spirituality and meditation. Practical, practical, practical. That's what we focus on. So some of our questions are very big and grandiose, and we always want to step them down of how can we, by knowing that information, apply it to our day-to-day lives and move ourselves forward. So let's invoke to start off properly. Place your hands on your heart. Be aware of your heart. Be aware of your crown. Be aware of your heart and your crown together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, respected and beloved teacher, Grandmaster Choa Koksui, to his teacher, Lord Bodhisattva Meiling, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Sarasvati, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, to the angels of technology, of communication, of wisdom and discernment, to our divine selves or higher souls, we humbly invoke for your divine light, love, and power, for your divine help, guidance, and protection, in moving our lives forward. We thank you, Lord God. We thank you all. With gratitude, respect, and love, so be it. Thank you. All right. Welcome, everyone. So you might be wondering, who is this deity behind me? So this is the deity Sarasvati, the deity of the arts, of music, of intelligence and wisdom. So I thought, well, if we're doing Q&As, it would be helpful to get as much support that we possibly can. And does anyone know which chakra or energy center is connected to wisdom? Indiana has makeup on today. Come on, girl. Which chakra? Wait, hold on. I see it in the comments. Your big view is blurry. Small is very clear. Forehead. Small is very clear. Your big view blurry. Small is very clear. Oh, got it. Okay.
It's gotten
Um,
better.
it's better now? Okay, perfect. Yes, Indiana, you are correct. Forehead chakra. So the forehead chakra deals with wisdom, deals with wisdom. So it allows us to access the inner world and see form. And we'll talk a little bit about that from one of the questions that came in. But first, does anyone have questions right off the bat? Because we have our list of questions, and then we have any impromptu questions to try to rile me and catch me off guard. Anyone?
Hi, Christian.
Hi, Indiana.
I I really never write the questions to you. I'm sorry about that.
It's
But
okay.
they're really small, and because I've been doing meditation for so many years that
Right.
you know. But I was thinking because as I get older, my memory is not as sharp as it was.
Right.
It is for some things, but not for others. I'm wondering if meditation and continuing meditation practices improves my memory.
Excellent question. So the question is, does meditation improve your memory? Well, yes, no, and it depends. So it depends on
Okay.
what kind of meditation that you're doing. So there's a meditation that we are taught in our Hatha Yoga called Kundalini meditation or inner breath meditation. That meditation upgrades the entire physical body. So the reason one of the reasons energetically that we forget is there's not enough energy in the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So Kundalini
Ah,
meditation helps with that, as well as super brain yoga helps with that, which is a technique that was revealed by Grandmaster Choa Koksui um, probably about 25 years ago. It's a 500-year-old technique that was started in India. It used to be called the Ganesha technique, connected to the deity Lord Ganesh, who is brilliant, who is very, very intelligent being. And so doing that technique regularly, as Master Choa says, will stave off or entirely prevent Alzheimer's as we age because it's constantly feeding the brain with energy. The reason we lose our memory The reason our mind isn't so sharp, the reason we are unable to focus is because of lack of energy, and not just one part of the brain, but throughout the entire brain. Okay. Um, so memory is a fascinating topic that we're obviously not going to go into the nitty gritty of it, but doing super brain yoga regularly of 7, 14, or 21 repetitions daily in the morning, preferably, is helpful. If you're studying for an exam, licensing, or you have to retain a bunch of information that's new to you very quickly, you can do more super brain, but pretty much capping it out at 21. You don't do super brain yoga when a woman is on her period, because when a woman is menstruating, um, darkish, grayish, orange energy is being excreted from the sex chakra. And if a woman does that technique, which the technique of super brain yoga is designed to push sex energy into the brain, it will give the person a severe headache. So you can either A, if you're a healer, thoroughly clean your sex center, then do the technique, or just wait until you're no longer menstruating and then you can do the technique. Okay. So, and then inner breath, Kundalini yoga. And that's obviously for people who are Hatha yoga practitioners. And then also diet is something that's very, very important. Excessive sugar is a neurotoxin, which affects your ability to think clearly. If your amygdala is overstimulated, it creates the fight or flight within you, which prevents you from learning and retaining information. So being calm helps with that. So Twin Hearts daily, inner breath once a week, super brain yoga daily. So those things should help. Also, there are healing protocols within pranic healing to specifically heal the brain, which I highly recommend, because healing the brain does more than just improve your memory or your ability to focus. It improves every single aspect of your body. Good question. Anyone else? Beth, I'm going to stay. So, first question, or now into our second question: does reincarnation exist? Well, does it? Yes. Okay. So why do you say yes? This is going to be a little bit connected to our Q and A's in general. Why do you say it exists? And you can take yourself off of mute. You can put it in the chat bar, whatever you want to do. Why do you think reincarnation exists? You have mentioned it before. That's fair. What else?
Um, it has to exist.
Why?
It's the cycle of life.
Okay.
And well, it does for me. It may not for a lot of people,
Okay.
but I've known about some of my past reincarnations. I've had deja vu experiences.
Okay.
So, for me, I'm convinced of
So
it.
Indiana is bringing up a very, very good point for all the people watching. So Grandmaster Chokook Sui, about 20 years ago, he wrote a book called The Existence of God is Self-Evident. The existence of God is self-evident, which means when one has an experience of God, that person no longer needs to consult with books, podcasts, YouTube videos, gurus, because they've had the experience of God, right? So when one has an experience of connecting with a past life, like Indiana's talking about, that is as real as she is right now sitting in her home, you can have every type of document and paperwork and everything and anything to disprove the existence of reincarnation, but you've validated it for yourself, right? So that's why the existence of God is self-evident. So when somebody has an experience of God, they're like, okay, now it's the process of understanding that experience. So it's the analogy I always like to use with people, because it's grosser level, grosser vibration, and it's more stickable in the mind. It's like explaining an orgasm to a 10-year-old. They have not had the experience in their body. So you can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about what an orgasm is until they have it, they don't quite get it. But once they have it, they know exactly what it is, and no one on the planet could convince them otherwise of what that experience was. So with reincarnation, connecting it to different traditions talk about reincarnation. Now, it's interesting. Master Choa wrote a book. He did not write the book. It was a compilation of a class that he was putting together, as well as many notes. And that book is called The Teachings of Inner Christianity Revealed. The Teachings of Inner Christianity Revealed, which is an excellent book, which, funny enough, of all the books I've read in pranic healing, this one took me a year and a half to read. A year and a half to read. It was so bizarre. I would open up the book, I would read 2 pages, and then I would have to put it down, and I wouldn't go back to it for months. When every other book in pranic healing and Arhatic yoga, I read typically within 2 days. So I was always asking myself the question, why is this so challenging to get through? So in that book, Master Choa reveals the inner teachings primarily of what Lord Jesus was teaching, and he talks about reincarnation. Unfortunately, I don't have the specific book to refer to the specific page for the benefit of the listeners, but I can plant the seed of, hey, grab the book, read it cover to cover, and you'll have a better idea of what I'm talking about. But as I understood it, this is not from the book, as I understood it from talking with other people in 553 AD, there was a meeting called Council of Nicaea where it was said that teachings of reincarnation were extracted and denied in the Bible. Now, doing a little research, that wasn't the case, right? That wasn't the case, that the Catholic Church was specifically trying to remove reincarnation or not. It was a misunderstanding, as with most things on the spiritual path. So that's why Master Choa says on the spiritual path, you have to practice discernment all the time. It's extremely important because you can have somebody who can see energy, someone who can feel energy, somebody who can tap into higher frequencies, and they could tell you anything. How do you validate that? Right? How do you validate that? So Master Choa says the 2 ways of validating it is look at the track record of the person who's giving you the information, and then 2, take it as temporary truth until you can validate it for yourself. So somebody could say, okay, right above you is your great great grandfather, and he's giving me a message. And you're like, oh, what's the message? That you're doing really good in this lifetime and keep up the good work. Well, wait a minute. Hold on a second. That's a pretty generic message. And why my great 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 grandfather? Why not somebody closer? Well, let's see. How can I validate that? Right. And so then if you actually knew information about your great 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 grandfather, you could then ask this person to go, hey, what is the name of this person? Blah, 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 blah. Right. So there's ways of validating it. So we don't take things at face value. So reincarnation is no different. From my experience on this path of 21 years, almost, I think more than 21 years at this point, it's been validated for me. The existence of reincarnation is self-evident in my experience, right? But that doesn't mean that I say it, therefore you believe it. It's look at the track record of the person, take it as temporary truth until you can validate it for yourself. So if you look at it from a logical standpoint, we have these things called virtues, right? In pranic healing, we cover 5 major virtues: loving kindness and non-injury, moderation and non-excessiveness, accurate perception, correct expression, honesty and non-lying. It's a sub virtue within that virtue. Constancy of aim and effort and non-laziness, and generosity and non-stealing. So those are the 5 major virtues that we work on. Now, is it fair to say that in one incarnation, you can master all those virtues? So would it be fair to say that you have to reincarnate in order to practice those virtues again and again and again and again and again? Because if you believe there to be an existence of a soul, right? How does the soul grow and evolve without a physical body? How does the soul experience the physical plane? if it doesn't have a physical body? How does the soul experience the emotional plane if it doesn't have an emotional body? How does the soul experience the mental plane if it doesn't have a mental body? How does the soul grow and evolve? It would have to have a body. And it would have to have many, many bodies to have many, many experiences, to learn many, many lessons until it eventually grows and evolves to such a point that it has neutralized its karma, it's learned all of its lessons, it's mastered all the virtues, and it becomes known as an ascended master, which is what Lord Jesus was. Lord Jesus is actually an avatar, which would be a 7th level initiate. Right? So the soul, every soul has degrees of brightness and development. Right? So if you're saying, well, wait a minute, that soul has one level of brightness, that other soul has another level of brightness. How do they get to be different brightnesses? We're all created equal qualitatively, but quantitatively, we are not. On the physical plane, the emotional plane, mental plane, and on the spiritual or causal plane. So obviously, it's a very complicated subject that is covered in a decent amount of detail in Inner Christianity Revealed, the class, as well as Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul, the class, and the book. So, number one, look at the track record of the person giving you the information. Number two, take it as temporary truth until you can validate it for yourself. And number three, this was brought up a bunch of times a couple of years ago within pranic healing, is does it make sense? Does it make sense? So explaining what we just did the past 5 minutes, does it make sense? Or is it so far out there that it goes against logic and reason and it's nonsensical? If it's nonsensical, that should tell you something right there. That should be a red flag. If something you go, okay, I can see how you got from point A to point B, but how did you get to Z? Like, I don't understand all the different steps. But if you can go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 and make a linear connection, then you're like, it makes sense. So for instance, the law of karma. How do we know the law of karma exists? Could just be making it up. But if you look at it on the physical level, I plant a seed into the ground of something, and then 2 weeks, 2 months, something comes up that's similar to that seed. I plant wheat, wheat comes up. I don't plant wheat and mangoes come up. So that's on the physical plane. Well, what about the emotional plane? Well, if I give loving energy to my spouse, to my partner, to my children, to my parents, what comes back to me? All right. I can kind of see the logic to that. I can see the linear rationality. I plant love, love comes back to me. Okay. What about your thinking? Right? If you want to see truth, if you lie and distort truth for people all the time, isn't it fair to say, well, then my truth is going to be distorted? Right? If you cause chaos in others, chaos will be caused within you. If you steal from others, you'll be stolen from, right? That's the law of karma. So if that's a law, then is it possible, is it logical to think there are other laws that you just don't know about or don't know the inner workings of? It's fair, right? It's fair to say that, there are probably some things I don't know. So reincarnation doesn't belong to any one religion or any one spiritual practice because it's a universal truth. Just like gravity isn't reserved just for airplanes. The law of gravity applies across all professions, all industries, right? It's a universal truth. But what about people who can levitate? Right? We've heard that one before. Aren't they defying the law of gravity? Not necessarily. You have to understand the other mechanisms and the primary laws that are above the law of gravity. So you see how complicated a simple question of does reincarnation exist? Right? So yes, it exists. No, it's not specific to one religion, one tradition, one spiritual practice, or to one person. Because if you think about it, if this is it, partly reincarnation has not been talked about because of the people who were running different organizations and different teachings. Because if you want to get people to fall into line, what do you tell them? You say, this is it. This is your one chance. This is your one opportunity. And if you don't do as we tell you to do, then you will suffer eternal damnation. So it's a way to control the masses. Now, in some way, that's good because it forces people to what? Practice virtue to become good people. On another way, it holds people with fear. So again, religion is led by human beings which are fallible. We don't have current religions, and that's another way of saying it. In general, we don't have the religions of the world being run by holy teachers currently. They are being guided by holy teachers, but they are not being run by holy teachers. Okay? So I hope that brings some more clarity and some more understanding, because that's a giant question that we can't answer even in a 3-hour period. But the simple answer is yes, reincarnation exists. Anything around that, just to make sure we've covered it and we can go to the next question. Any other questions connected to reincarnation to clarify?
So is it avoided just because people are trying to influence you one way or the other, I guess, in their religion aspect versus spirituality?
Yes, it could be out of ignorance, or it could be out of the intention to control, to manipulate, to make the person do what you want them to do. So, for instance, you have street preachers, which one of my hobbies in the past was to either go physically to where the street preachers were and listen to them, or to go online and to watch these people argue and debate. Now, in their heart of hearts, they believe that they are saving souls from eternal damnation by telling them, turn from your sin, turn from your wicked ways, and follow Christ. And a simple example, which the majority of all street preachers that I've seen, the teachings they most hold on to is, no one gets to the Father except through me. That viewpoint literally creates their entire life, that viewpoint. So they're saying, well, wait a minute. If I want to go to the Father, if I want to go to God, the only way to go to God is through Jesus Christ. But Lord Jesus is representing the I am, or the higher soul, and the Father is the divine spark. So what Lord Jesus is saying to the populace is, the only way to get to God is through the higher soul. But with misunderstanding and mistranslation, what do you have? People say, well, wait a minute. The only way to get to the Father is through Lord Jesus. So if I don't give my life to Lord Jesus, I'll never get to the Father. I'll never get to heaven. Therefore, I have to, for lack of a better way of saying it, shame and guilt other people into that, because that was the assignment that was given to me. The assignment was to become one with the higher self and inspire others to become one with their higher selves. But the misunderstanding and mistranslation is, I have to go out and preach the gospel to tell people, turn away from your sins, you're wicked, and you need to be redeemed only through the blood of Christ. So it's a misunderstanding and mistranslation. Same thing in Buddhism, right? And the different levels and teachings of Buddhism, they say all of life is suffering. That's a mistranslation. It's, there is suffering in life. Big difference, right? Big difference. right? So when you have the wrong viewpoint, your thoughts are wrong, your speech is wrong, your feelings are wrong, your actions are wrong, your spiritual practice is wrong, your livelihood is wrong, right? So someone who sells firearms, or someone who's in the liquor business, or someone who's in gambling, that is not right livelihood. But because of their viewpoint about certain things, that pours down into the other aspects of their life. So if I have the viewpoint that I can only get to heaven through Christ, and I can only do that efficiently by helping other souls get to heaven, and then what will you have? An atheist or agnostic will say, well, wait a minute. If God is all loving, why would he give you one incarnation to get everything right, and then there's damnation? Doesn't make sense. It's not logically consistent. Big topic, yeah?
Mm.
Any other questions? Does it help alleviate some of the incongruencies? Here's also something helpful for Beth, and this is relative to all of us in the group. If you hear information and it stirs up your solar plexus, also another indicator, right? Because truth shall set you free. So when people hear truth, it resonates with them, and it moves them, and it transforms them. But when we hold on to old calcified viewpoints, thought forms, emotions, etc., there's this cognitive dissonance within us. So that's why Master Choa says you can't force people to grow and evolve. You have to meet people where they're at, give them the information, and then let them make their own conclusion. Just the opposite of what the street preachers do. They do what? They force the opinion and viewpoint onto other people, and the people around them automatically close down. So respect people's intelligence. So if you're getting emotionally agitated by hearing something, that's an indicator of something you need to look at. Because I can feel your agitation. That's why
It all makes sense, and I want to go with it. It's just hard to let go of everything you were taught as a kid. You know, growing up with a religious background in certain church aspects. My adult me is saying, "Oh yeah, that's all good. That's where I want it to be." But I don't know. It's a conflict, and I'm struggling with that, I guess.
Yeah, it's completely understandable. So what Beth is talking about is what we call in pranic healing calcified thought forms, which are in the throat. So as we're given knowledge as children and teenagers, the knowledge comes in, we process it to the best of our abilities, and we attach certain meaning and emotional energies to it, and it becomes calcified over time. That's why the older a person gets, in general, it's harder for them to change their mind about something. They lack flexibility. Because they're like, well, that's just the way that we've always done it. That's just how it is, right? It's the funny example. Many of you probably have heard this before about there's a mother, a daughter, a daughter, a mother, and a grandmother in the kitchen, and they're all cooking together. And the daughter cuts the ends off of the steak or the pot roast, puts it into the pot and puts it in. And then her husband says, why do you cut the ends off of the steak or the pot roast? And she goes, I don't know. That's how my mother, I don't know. That's how I saw my mother do it. And she's been doing it her whole life like that. I don't know. Well, let me ask her. And then she asked her mom, why do we cut the edges off the pot roast before we put it in? And she goes, that's a good question. Let me ask grandma. Let me ask my mom. Why do we do that? And then she goes, Mom, why do you do that? Why, since, as long as I can remember, you've been cutting the edges off the pot roast before you put it into the thing. Does it help with like seasoning or moisture or something? And she goes, no, we just didn't have any pans that were big enough. So that's the point of how many people have heard of dogma? Dogma means rules that you don't question. So somebody goes, well, that's just the way we do it, but that's not an answer. That doesn't give understanding. That doesn't give discernment. So I was brought up in the church. I was brought up in the Catholic Church in Massachusetts, which I was fascinated by as a little kid because I was sensitive to energies. And so saying, believe me because I told you so is not an answer. No master in my years of pranic healing has never said, do it because I said so. They give you understanding to the best of the ability to give you understanding, and then you're on your own to make your own conclusions, right? So everything we talked about with reincarnation, you take it to the best of your abilities, and then at some point you can have it be a self-evident truth and go, this actually makes sense. But you also have to be open. You have to be open and receptive. You have to be willing to let the old forms die. Master Choa says the reason things change is not because people change their minds, it's because old people die. And when they die, they take the old thought forms, old energies with them. That's how we have progress, not because a 55-year-old business executive goes, you know what? I'm changing everything. Right? So it's connected to the throat chakra. The throat chakra that deals with inflexibility, calcified thought forms. It's an excellent question. And I wish I could snap my finger and give you the clarity you're seeking, but it's obviously some more work that you have to do around it. Right. Number 2, how do you adjust your state of mind? Like Montana or Florida? So how do you adjust your state of mind? Always goes back to awareness. Without awareness, there's no inner transformation, as Master Choa would say. All goes back to awareness. So you have to be aware of what your current state of mind is before you can change it. And most people suffer from negative states of mind for prolonged periods of time without ever having awareness. Because your depression didn't come out of nowhere. Your anger didn't come out of nowhere. There's always a cause. And the more awareness you have, you can trace it to the cause. And most of the time, it's because of wrong viewpoint. Most of the time, it's because of wrong viewpoint. So with forgiveness, right? You're angry at somebody. You have the viewpoint that they hurt you, they injured you, and they need to be punished. And you have to self-flagellate because it's the right thing to do, right? I'm entitled to my anger. All of that is wrong viewpoint. But if you have the right viewpoint of we're all in the process of growing and evolving, we all make mistakes. I make mistakes and hurt people. They forgive me. This person made a mistake and hurt me, and I'm going to forgive them because it's the right thing to do, right? That's right viewpoint, which then determines everything else. So with state of mind, you have to be aware of, well, what is my current state of mind? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it angry? Is it doubtful? Is it peaceful? Is it delusional, right? Where am I? Which requires awareness and self-honesty. And then where do I want to have my viewpoint? Where do I want to have my state of mind, right? I want to have a state of mind of gratitude. Okay, so what's your awareness? I'm not very grateful. Okay, how can you be more grateful? How can you shift your viewpoint? Right? So it goes back to awareness. Most people don't have awareness. And what closes the gap between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind is awareness. The more awareness you have, you expand in the inner world and go, aha, that's why I am the way I am. That's why I think the way I think. Ah, that trauma, that pain, that past life experience will come into your awareness. You go, aha, I see it. And with that awareness, you have inner transformation. And you can at will choose your frame of mind, your state of being. Because if you recognize I am that I am the soul, a being of light, a being of love, and a being of power, I as power can choose to go from sadness to happiness like that. The other factor is purification, which we'll get to in one of the other questions. Any comments around that, around state of mind? You have to have awareness of where you are with your state of mind, and then you have to have the will to transform that state of mind. Question number 3, why do I have itchiness after meditation? Why do I have itchiness after meditation? Well, it could be a skin condition. That would be one, right? Pranic healing is very unique in its approach to healing because we don't look at just the energy factor. Now, if you're a medical doctor, you can prescribe. As a pranic healing practitioner who's not a medical doctor, we don't prescribe. We don't say, take your meds or get off your meds. We don't say, take this we don't say, do this medical practice or not do this medical practice. We talk in energy terms because that's what we are qualified to do. We're not qualified to talk in medical terms. So what I always encourage people to do is when they come for healing, we look at the many different factors. I don't say if you're itchy during meditation, hey, maybe you should look into this skin cream or not. I say, go to a skin specialist who can give you the physical understanding. But we do it from the physical, emotional, mental, family, karma, right? And we look at it from as many viewpoints as we possibly can to have a holistic approach to healing that person. So if you're having itchiness in meditation, energetically speaking, you're purging, and itchiness is connected to the basic chakra. So anything that's connected to your skin is the basic chakra at your tailbone. Diseased, dirty, reddish, darkish, reddish energies coming out of the basic and the perineum. So I'll give you an example. So when I was going through a very, very difficult emotional purging time of my life, and I went to the MCKS Meditation Center in Bovina, New York, there's a shaky machine. You know, the little shaky machine, just stand on it. It's got the little plates and they move really, really fast. I couldn't be on the lower level for more than 30 seconds without feeling immense agitation, itchiness, like I want to like rip my skin off. Why? Because there was all this dirty red energy throughout my entire body because I was constantly inflamed from a bad diet and from negative emotions. So as my body was shaking, literally, because that's what the machine is designed to do, as it was shaking, it was releasing pent up stress energy and congestion within my cells. And it was permeating. So when I took my shirt off or lifted my shirt up afterwards, my entire solar plexus was beet red and my kidneys beet red. Fear, anger, my liver, everything was super, super bright red. And I'm as white as a ghost, right? Physically. So when we meditate, what happens is the divine energy comes down, clears out the channels, the nadis, and then that makes space for Kundalini energy to come up. Now, that divine energy isn't cleaning out and clearing out everything in the channels. And what did we talk about before? Kundalini energy magnifies, amplifies. So if you have anger in the lower chakras and the Kundalini energy hits it, it expands that anger, and then you have congestion. Right? Then you have congestion. So a way to alleviate that is do more physical exercise before you meditate, receive energy healing or do energy healing before you meditate, do physical exercise like working out before you meditate, yoga before you meditate, Okay. Taking a salt bath before you meditate. All of those things will help. Also, the place where you sit is important. If you sit in a dirty, congested area, meaning if you meditate on a public transportation where thousands of people have sat there with their congestion, their stress, their heaviness, and you meditate, what are you doing? You're opening up your channels, your nadis, and then you're absorbing that energy, right? So you have to be careful. Also, you don't want to meditate. I know this sounds bizarre, but I have a very interesting story behind it. I'll share a later time. You don't want to meditate above a septic tank. Okay. You don't want to meditate above a septic tank. So if you're itchy during meditation from an energetic viewpoint, it's because congestion is coming out of your system. And we remove congestion by exercising, by doing cleansing breathing, sweeping ourselves energetically, taking a salt bath, using incense. Those are different things we can use to help with congestion. But it basically means there's Kundalini energy coming up and it's hitting dirty spots within your energy body. Okay. Or you have psoriasis and you need to look at it. Okay. Number 4. This is a multi-part question. We'll cover what we can. What is bliss? Why do others feel it while others don't? Why is there a lag time? And how can we feel more bliss longer? Okay. So bliss is very interesting. The first time I ever heard the word bliss was actually through the TM movement, the Transcendental Meditation movement from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who talks about bubbling bliss. And I was like, bubbling bliss? I don't even know what that means. And again, what do we talk about? Just like having an orgasm, you explain to a 10-year-old, yeah, this is an orgasm. They're like, okay, I guess. So just like bubbling bliss, huh? What? And then you have the experience of bubbling bliss. And you're like, got it, nailed it. That's exactly what it is. So you would know if you've had bliss. Bliss is beyond peace. It's beyond happiness. Master Choa says the closest thing an ordinary person will come to experiencing bliss is through an orgasm. That's why we spend so much time chasing the dragon, as it were, of the orgasm. Okay? That's the closest thing an ordinary person will experience to bliss. But bliss is inside and outside the body. It is all permeating. And it's where a greater downpour of soul energy from the higher soul is coming into the incarnated soul. So it's permeating your mental body, your emotional body, your physical body. And one of the secrets is in the heart. So you've heard the term Ananda. Ananda means bliss, divine bliss, connected to the heart. Connected to the heart. So when your heart is super, super activated, it highly activates the crown. The crown pulls down a tremendous amount of energy, and then you start assimilating it. So you might be asking the question, well, how do we experience more bliss more often? The cleaner your energy body is, meaning the more purification practices you've done, the greater your likelihood of experiencing bliss. So for instance, when I was practicing with the TM organization, almost 20 years ago, we would do something called rounding. Rounding is where you basically do a set physical exercises, breathing exercises, meditations, and then lecture. And then that's called one round. And so the goal is to do as many rounds as you can in one day. And you'll notice something as you go from one round to the next round to the next round, the stillness deepens, the bliss expands and intensifies. Why? Because you're purifying each step of the way. You're purifying through physical activity. You're purifying through your breathing. You're purifying through your meditations. You're purifying through the lectures. Then you're going back and doing it again. So you're going deeper and deeper and deeper, and your body is getting a tremendous amount of rest. Another tip that I learned is when your body is super rested, it's much easier to achieve bliss consciously. Now, for those of us who are very mental and have a hard time letting go in meditation when our body is exhausted and we meditate, we're out. And we can have a very good experience because we have less inner resistance, right? We're not in our head and we're not so solar plexy. We're just like, okay, my body's exhausted, but I'm told I have to meditate daily. And it's like 2:00 in the morning. I've been traveling all day. Okay, I got this. All right. Point a light above my head. Okay. And then you're out. You have less resistance. So you can experience bliss, but not as conscious. I prefer to experience bliss consciously. So if your body's super rested, your nervous system is strong, you can experience bliss. Okay. And why is there lag time? Awareness. The reason there's lag time is because of lack of awareness, meaning we are all swimming in an ocean of energy right now in this very moment. You're swimming in bliss of the highest order right now. The reason you can't experience it is because of lack of awareness and lack of purification. If your awareness is expanded enough and deep enough, you're aware of bliss. But what prevents us is lack of purification. It's kind of like you have AM, FM, and XM, right? You have different frequencies. So at an AM frequency, you can't tap into FM stations, and FM stations can't tap into XM because they're different frequencies. So as you continue to purify as a person through character building, your meditation practices, getting healing, etc., you raise your vibration, so your ability to access the higher frequencies increase. So your peace meditating now and then 5 years from now will be completely different if you're regular in your meditation practice, right? So what you understand peace now will change as you evolve, which is quite fascinating. I have, I think I said this a couple of years ago in a group. I can't remember which group this was part of. But I was sharing with the group that my everyday experience now is as strong as my deepest meditations were 15 years ago. So imagine you have a super powerful meditation, you're like super blissed out. You're like, this is amazing. God, if I could just capture this in a bottle, my life would be amazing. And then imagine that being your day-to-day experience. You'd be like, wow, that's pretty sweet. But what happens is you become acclimated to that level of bliss. So then when you meditate, you go even higher. So hopefully that's inspiration for you to keep doing your practice. Number 5, I have a question about breathing. I know when meditating, you're generally supposed to inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. Is it okay to both breathe in and out through the nose? I find exhaling through the mouth unnatural. Okay. So this is a person that is seeking understanding of how to breathe properly and what breathing techniques to do. In Arhatic Yoga and the higher levels of Arhatic Yoga, you're taught very powerful breathing techniques. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of types of pranayamas or breathing exercises that have different effects. Some are to strengthen the physical body. Some are to strengthen the emotional body. Some are to strengthen the mental body. Some are to use to purify. Some are used to energize. Some are used to redirect prana, which most pranayamas are for, redirecting energy. So when you inhale and exhale through the nose, it's affecting more the prefrontal cortex. When you inhale and exhale out the mouth, so when you inhale through the nose and exhale out the mouth, it's cleansing. It's cleansing, it's releasing, it's a bigger valve. So when you're preparing, when you're doing your exercise routine, it's okay to do powerful breathing, right? Because it's cleansing, it's expelling. That's not the effect that you want to do right before meditation, because what are you doing? You're going from gross to subtler to subtler to the subtlest, right? So if you're aggressive with your breathing, which I've got not yelled at, but tweaked a little bit within pranic healing over the years. Christian, you're breathing so aggressively because I want to get rid of the congestion as quickly as possible, but I wouldn't do that type of breathing right before meditation, right? So when you inhale and exhale through the nose, it stimulates the lower lobes of the lungs, the parasympathetic nervous system. So you have that relaxation. But if you're inhaling in the mouth and out the mouth, you're stimulating the upper lobes of the lungs, the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight. You either want to fight somebody or you want to run from somebody when you breathe like that. So I recommend people breathe most often in the nose and out the nose. Literally retrain yourself to breathe properly because you will be calmer most of the time. So I find exhaling through the mouth unnatural. It's not unnatural if you're doing it for cleansing purposes, right? Okay. Number 6. Okay, so this may sound like a silly question, but is it true that you can achieve a higher level of consciousness, awareness through meditating? And if so, how do you do it? So again, that's like the question of reincarnation. It's a big question, not easily answered. When somebody says greater awareness, what does that mean? Greater consciousness, what does that mean? If I asked you guys in the group, what is higher states of consciousness, what would you tell me? Exactly. What would you tell me? But we so casually use that, right? Or if I said enlightenment, what would you say enlightenment is? If I said illumination, what would you say illumination is? It's terms that we hear so often within the spiritual world, but we can't define it. And if you can't define something, you can't understand it, you can't study it, you can't master it. You can't practice it and master it, right? So I have to kind of get a better idea of where this person is coming from with the question, higher states of consciousness and awareness. Awareness takes place on the gross level. So if I said, what is your left toe doing right now? Before I asked the question, you weren't aware of what your left toe was doing. I asked the question, now you're aware of your left toe. That's how awareness works. Now, if I say, be aware of your entire body simultaneously, different experience. Now, if I say, be aware of just your bone marrow. Well, Christian, I'm not sensitive to my bone marrow, right? Because you lack awareness of that part of you. Why is it that we can become aware of our feelings? Well, guess what? Some people are aware of their feelings. Some people are not. Some people are aware of their thinking processes. They hear a voice in their head, right? Some people don't because they lack awareness. So you have physical awareness, emotional awareness, mental awareness, and spiritual awareness, which is infinite. And then you have awareness of after the fact. You have awareness of, you have no awareness. Then you have awareness after the fact, something happening. Then you have awareness as you're doing it. So for instance, how many of us have been doing something stupid, and as we're doing that stupid thing, we're aware of it and we keep doing it anyways? Anyone? Am I the only one? So that's awareness. Okay, good. Whew, I didn't want to feel all left out. So yes. So that's awareness of the higher soul is going, hey, don't do that stupid thing. That's the higher soul. So when you're aware of doing something stupid, that's you observing yourself. Wouldn't that be an indicator of free will? Think about it. Would that or would that not be an indicator of free will? You're literally witnessing yourself doing something stupid that you know, and Jesus knows, is going to cause you pain. And guess what? You do it anyways because you have free will. Your higher soul, hey, get after it. You want to run that person over in your car? Go ahead. You want to give $1,000 to that charity? Go ahead. You don't? Okay. Because the higher soul pours its energy into you like an investment and then says, okay, what are you going to do with this investment, little self? Well, I'm going to spend my life being a good person. So then those lessons and energies get brought back to the higher soul, and the higher soul goes, that was a good investment of energy. The higher soul becomes brighter, it evolves, and then it reincarnates into a more advanced body. I mean, that's if reincarnation exists, right? Does that make sense? So you have free will to do whatever you want. You want to go out and run into the road naked? Get after it. You can do that. There's consequences, but you can still do it because you're a being of free will. Okay. By the way, as a side note, the more advanced your soul is, the stronger its influence on you, which is the goal, by the way. Your goal is to be consciously one with the higher self. So you are, when you're like, I don't know what to do, like I, the little I don't know what to do right now. You're like, hey, big boss, which is also you. What do I do? And then the higher soul will guide you because you are being humble. You're being conductive. So you have to have awareness. And then the other level of awareness is right before you're about to do that thing, you're like, I know when I do that, I know what the consequences are. I'm not going to do that. That's awareness. So you ever been in an argument, yelling and screaming at somebody, and you literally are witnessing yourself from above yelling at that person? That's the higher soul observing. Interesting. The person's not learning their lesson. Okay. But then as you suffer enough, have enough negative feedback, enough negative experiences, then what happens? You're like, I'm not going to say that. I know if I say that, it's going to cause disharmony. It's going to cause a fight. It's going to make my life very difficult. I'm not going to say it. So you have awareness before you do the act. And then the highest level of awareness is it's no longer in your consciousness to do the wrong thing. So you don't think, I'm not going to say that mean thing because that mean thing is going to hurt that person. You don't even have the thought of saying the mean thing. That's the highest level. Number 7, which we covered right at the beginning. What is the third eye? You hear this term all the time. Where's the third eye? Anyone? I can't, here. You guys are all over the map. Exactly. You see, even people within the school are like, it's here, right? Right? It's third eye, right? Over here. Okay. The ajna is considered in many schools to be the third eye. This is not the third eye. The ajna chakra is the master chakra, controls and regulates the energy below it, deals with abstract thinking, deals with higher will, and it deals with some clairvoyance. The third eye, the true third eye, is here. The forehead chakra, chokma in Kabbalah. This gives you access to the inner world. So when you say, Our Father, crown chakra, who art in heaven, the forehead chakra gives you access to see who is in heaven. So to connect with what Beth was saying, to kind of stretch the chakras a little bit, somebody with the developed forehead chakra has the self-evidence of these questions around reincarnation. So someone who has a developed forehead has what? Wisdom. What is our education system? Throat chakra, knowledge. Here's this book. I want you to regurgitate the book. Here's this lecture. Regurgitate the lecture. There's no wisdom. It's knowledge. There's a big, huge difference between the two. Okay. So the forehead chakra gives you access to the inner world. A person who has a highly developed forehead chakra cannot be fooled, cannot be tricked, cannot be led astray because they have wisdom. King Solomon. Remember the two women fighting over the baby? And and King Solomon was trying to identify who the real mother was, the forehead is what gave him the opportunity to come up with that test, the forehead chakra, because it didn't cause injury. Do you guys understand? He says, oh, we'll cut the baby in half. Obviously that would cause injury, but what happened? They got the answer of who was the real mother and no injury was caused. That takes wisdom. You can cause a war, right? It's not difficult to cause a war, but to deflect and neutralize a war requires wisdom, right?
So
Yes, ma'am.
it's not wrong to question your past beliefs.
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's where I feel conflicted, is because, you grow up being told X, Y, Z, and then you come into a realization where X, Y, Z doesn't make sense anymore.
Okay. You ready? Watch. We're going to blow Beth's mind right now. Is everyone watching? We're going to blow Beth's mind. She's going to have a aha moment. You ready? This is part of my forehead kicking in.
Please.
Beth, do you still believe in Santa Claus?
No.
Why?
Well, I mean,
Why?
I'm Santa for my kids, so no.
So I don't understand. When you were a child, you believed in Santa Claus. Why don't you
Right.
believe in Santa Claus now? You didn't see Santa Claus, all the ins and outs of Santa Claus as a kid, but you believed it. Why?
Right. Right. Eh. Different logic, different. I don't associate Santa with the other.
No, it has nothing to do. I'm not comparing. You're
Mhm.
missing what I'm comparing. I'm not comparing Santa to Jesus or Santa to reincarnation. I'm comparing it to knowledge you were given at a certain level of understanding and development. And then you're
Right.
saying, well, I don't, Christian, why would I still believe in Santa Claus? I'm asking you why you don't believe in Santa Claus.
Okay.
Why don't you believe in Santa Claus?
Because I know he's fictional.
And how do you know he's fictional? Come on. How do you know he's fictional?
Stories, no proof. I mean,
Okay. Is it logical for Santa Claus to exist in the way that it's explained? Is it logical?
no.
Okay. So going from that logic, rationality, is it logical and rational to think you have one life to get it right?
No, I mean, and that's what I really hope, is that no. I just
But I'm trying to show you, you're so
Right.
confident
Yes.
that Santa Claus doesn't exist. You're like, Christian, it's obvious. I understand why we think the way we think about Santa Claus as children, but as an adult, Santa Claus doesn't exist. Okay. So you have another viewpoint around religion.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that any different around reincarnation? If it's logical that we have to have multiple lifetimes to learn multiple lessons and have multiple experiences, right? Why is it so
Right.
difficult to go, yeah, that makes sense?
I guess that one's just, it's embedded a little deeper
Correct.
than
You know why?
Santa.
Because you have a community of people reinforcing the viewpoint.
Right. Right.
And
Well,
and it's a 2,000-year-old thought form versus a what? 150-year-old thought form. See the difference?
mm-hmm. Well, and I really, I mean, I want to believe in the reincarnation and all that. I just,
Do you believe in
I guess
gravity? Do you believe in
yeah.
gravity?
Yes.
You sure? What if you stopped believing in gravity tomorrow? Could you still jump off of a bridge and not get hurt?
I'd still fall. Yeah.
So does it have anything to do with belief?
Got it. It's something that I'm going to have to kind of get used to, that I want to believe, but my past history is pulling me back, I guess.
Yeah. Calcified thought forms.
How do I get rid of that? Yeah.
Cleaning, healing, understanding, which this is called, this form of yoga. By the way, Transformation Q&A Thursdays is a form of yoga. The form of yoga is called Jnana Yoga, the yoga of understanding. That's why we do these, to give you understanding on certain things that are important for you to understand. Because when you have understanding, you can transform your life. Awareness, understanding, transformation, right? So again, when people say, well, I don't believe that, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Your belief means nothing. I don't believe gravity, Christian. Okay. I don't believe in tithing. Okay. I don't believe in karma. Okay. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant of our beliefs. It's a universal law that affects all kingdoms, human kingdom included. Doesn't matter. Okay. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Number eight. How do you materialize something? This, we can't answer with the time we have left. It's fascinating. How do you materialize something? So Grandmaster Chogo Koksui developed a class many years ago called Kriya Shakti. Kriya means movement. Shakti means energy. It's the movement of energy. The other way of saying it is power through purification. As you purify yourself, you become conductive to energies that materialize. Everything comes from God. So the more connected you are to God, you become what? The materializer, the creator, right? So how do you materialize something? In essence, it goes, you get the inspiration from the higher soul, goes into the crown, and then you see it as form in the forehead. So you have an inspiration. It's just an energy. You're like, I'm inspired and I don't know what it is. Then you start to see something. Aha, I'm supposed to date this person. I'm supposed to move to this city. I'm supposed to start this career. I'm supposed to whatever. You start getting form. You start seeing your inspiration. So then it goes into the forehead. Then it goes into the ajna, understanding. What exactly did I see? Was it my soulmate, or was that a business partner? Was that a long lost friend that I'm reconnecting with, that I'm going to run into? Or was that a person I've never met? So the ajna starts to understand. Then the throat chakra works through the details. So you're understanding big picture. Then the throat chakra works through the details. Like, how could I meet that person? This is the what, the when, the where, throat chakra. This is the why. This is the what, when, where. Then you have the heart, the who. The heart pulls in the people, because what does heart energy do? Attracts, right? Then the solar plexus is the overcoming fear, overcoming obstacles. Okay, I want to meet this person, but I have a resistance. I want to take this job opportunity, but I have a resistance. I want to move to this new place, but I have a resistance, right? That's overcoming. This, the solar plexus chakra, is where the majority of the population stops. That's where they give up. That's why the majority of the population does not materialize what they want. Solar plexus. They stop right there. So you have energy pouring down from the higher soul, going through the chakra system. As it goes through the chakra system, it gets distorted because of what? Impurities. So as energy's moving, you lost some there. That got distorted there. So for instance, let's say you're a person who lies a lot. You deceive people constantly, right? So the energy and inspiration comes through the chakra systems and then it goes through the throat and then it gets tainted with deception. So then guess what? You can't see things clearly to what? Materialize. Then you have the navel chakra. We won't get into that. We have the spleen. We won't get into that. We have the sex. We won't get into that. And then the basic chakra is the what? Physical activity in the materialization. So you have an idea of a new business. That inspiration goes to the chakra system, and then you never produce the product. You never produce the service. You never make the phone calls. You never raise the money. You never buy the building. You never build the building. You never do the physical work. It doesn't materialize. One of the easiest things to do is actually the physical work. The most difficult is the emotional work. So if you have fear, you won't move forward. If you have anxiousness, if you have doubt's typically in the ajna and the throat, but if you have fear, you won't move forward. That's why courage is super important in being successful. Solar plexus. Okay. But that's a fascinating topic. We can talk about that for days. How do you materialize something? Number 9, I'm new to meditation and want to progress quickly. Would you recommend twice a day? No. This is why. If you're not meditating once a day regularly, it doesn't serve you to do twice a day. Your energy body has to be acclimated over time. Otherwise, you'll become congested, which will lead to Kundalini syndrome, which will destroy your life from the inside out. So especially advanced meditations like Twin Hearts and the other meditations in our Hatha Yoga. So if somebody's consistent with one thing, do that for a few months and then add. I don't recommend people do meditating twice a day. It's too much energy. Now, if you're a full-time healer and you have lots of obligations and you're using the energy all the time, then yeah, you meditate in the morning, you meditate in the evening. You meditate in the morning to gather the energy, distribute it to the people you serve, and then you meditate in the evening to clean out your energy, restore your energy, and then you can go to bed. But in general, once a day. And then lastly, number 10, meditate with tongue on the roof of mouth or tongue relaxed. What's the meaning, reason behind having it on the roof of the mouth? Okay, so we have a circuit of energy that goes from the front and behind. It's called the microcosmic orbit. When you speak, you break that circuit. When you take your tongue and you put it on the roof of your palate, you complete the circuit, so energy spins, circulates faster, and builds. So when you talk, energy comes out. When you're not talking, you should always have your tongue in the roof of your palate. The further you bring your tongue back, in general, the greater the the stronger your connection to your higher soul. But if it's uncomfortable, it hurts, that's not going to help, because then you're meditating on the pain. You're not meditating on the connection. In India, in certain schools, it's called the Kichahari Mudra, I think, if I'm saying it right. Kalahari Mudra, where they cut the frenulum. They cut the frenulum so you can stick your tongue further back. That's not necessary. It's a lower level of truth. It doesn't mean their school is bad. It doesn't mean the school is wrong. It's a lower level of truth. It is not necessary to cut your frenulum, stick your tongue all the way back to have the same effect of just taking your tongue and putting on the roof of your palate. And there are higher levels of teaching even beyond that. Okay? Good. Any other questions, comments, concerns to close out tonight's lecture? We actually made pretty good time. I thought we really ran over. Anything else? Questions, comments, concerns? And to answer Alif's question, next week is the audio recording, right? That's one of the add-ons. So we do our Sunday meditation healings, and then we do our Thursday Q&A, and then once a month we do our recording, our visualization recording. So that'll be coming out next week. And if you have any ideas for that, let me know. So in essence, my ninja power is creative visualization. My ninja power is using the throat chakra to create form. It's what I've been doing for many, many years, and I've gotten better at it over the years. So it was recommended to me a couple years ago, why don't you create a program or programs for creative visualization? And I go, I never thought about that. That's a great idea. And now we're in the process of making that happen, right? Inspiration from one soul to this soul, and then it took time to go through the chakra system, right? But really, the process of materialization is fascinating. Really, really quite fascinating. So we'll have that creative visualization next week for everybody. And there are no other questions. Okay. Unless, Elif, you writing something, girl? What are you doing? Yes.
Thank you so much, Christian. Another amazing, Q&As, another Thursday, amazing. And I'm so like every week, like, thank you. I have no words. We are learning, we are growing a lot because of your effort. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And as I was mentioning to you guys initially, I would have done anything in the beginning of my path to have advanced practitioners share understanding with me. What, like anything, I practically did do anything if you knew more of my background with that. But I was lucky enough that I found a mentor 5 or 6 years into my path that I would go over to his house and I would meet with him for hours once a week minimum. And I would just probe him and probe him and probe him and ask more and more questions. And it really gave me a great understanding of this world, which is infinite in its understanding. And he actually got in trouble a few times by Master Choa by revealing too much to me too soon. But that was my good karma to get extra information, and that was his not so good karma by getting yelled at by the teacher. So is what it is, but you're very welcome. My pleasure. I love to serve you guys. This it is in the giving that we receive. So as I'm sharing with you, energies and understandings are coming into my awareness that I didn't have before sharing it. So it's a symbiotic relationship. Okay. So let us close. Be aware of your hearts. Be aware of your crowns. Be aware of your heart and your crown together. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother. To Grandmaster Choa Koksui, Lord Mahaguru Jameling, to Lord Buddha Kuan Yin, to Saraswati, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, to the angels of communication, of technology, of awareness, understanding, wisdom, and transformation. To our divine selves or higher souls, we humbly give thanks for your divine light, love, and power, your divine help, guidance, protection. Thank you for helping us become better people and better souls. Thank you for giving us the ability to practically understand these teachings to better our lives and the lives of those we serve. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you with gratitude, respect, and love. So be it, and so it is. Thank you. I got to do the stop the recording. Bye-bye, everyone watching the recording.